Hi guys, and welcome to another video. And we are done on that other site. 16-hour shifts are over and we are back on 12-hour shifts. It's Wednesday, is it? Wednesday. So I'm like 3 days, fourth shift into the new site. New site is not great. There's not much room to do anything. There's no real grass, and there's potential dangers around. There's lots of rubbish. There's lots of rubbish laying around which you don't know what's in there because you don't know what people have been dumping, etc. Which also leads to there's lots of rats around. So there's lots of rats and different things like that. And although it rained last night, considering it hasn't rained probably for 4 or 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks here, and the last couple of weeks have been 25-30 degrees plus, there's some standing water around. And if there's standing water around and it hasn't rained for a long time and it's been that hot, something suggests to me that you don't want your dog going anywhere near that water. Definitely don't want them drinking it. So it's not the best site. It's a bit dirty. There are some sort of hazards around, etc. But we're back to 12-hour shifts. It's in a good location for me, so it's not far away from my house. It's only about 25-30 minutes away from my house. And it does give me the potential now to be able to bring the dogs to my mum and dad's, where they can go for a bit of a run before shift. So normally I haven't been bringing Ollie to work, especially on the last site, due more because of the location, the area, and having to leave the vehicle for a certain amount of time in a not great area. So I haven't been bringing Ollie to work. Bringing him to work tonight because it's a bit more of a safer area. There's fences and gates, etc. So we're a bit more locked in. And I would say it's more of a low risk site, this one. So I'm bringing Ollie to work tonight. When I don't bring Ollie to work, because I don't want to leave him for periods of time before the missus gets back home, I normally walk around our local area and then me and Coop go to work. But because I'm bringing Ollie to work today, and the location of the site I'm on, it actually does give me the opportunity to what the hell was that? What are you saying, mate? It actually gives me the opportunity to bring the dogs to my mum and dad's and give them a bit of a run, because we are on 12-hour shifts and obviously I've got 12 hours off. So although the site isn't great, it does give me opportunities to do this kind of stuff. Not sure what was in the orchard just then, but Coop got some attention. There's now... What are you saying, mate? Hey, what do you see? So what I'll do is I'll bring you through this shift and we'll take it through to tomorrow morning. And yeah, you'll come and spend a shift with me and the 2 doggies. And we're at work now, and there is rubbish. There is lots of rubbish. Do have some facilities in here. This should be clean. Yeah, that's pretty clean. That's pretty clean. That should be clean because it's only the security that are using it. So if it wasn't clean, we know who we should speak to. Keep looking at the wrong way. So we should know who we need to speak to. But yeah, there are some sort of hazards around. I'll show you maybe a couple that you just need to be careful of, I think. So like I said, it hasn't rained here for a good 6 weeks really. So obviously don't want the dogs to be going through that sort of stuff. I mean, like I say, I know it rained last night, but it literally just sprinkled about. So you want to be a bit careful about letting your dogs go through this. And I can only assume, I won't show all of it, but I can only assume that it's come out of there, which, yeah, is not ideal. So yeah, have to be a little bit careful about obviously walking the dog, obviously keeping the dog on a lead at all times, as you should, but obviously just trying to steer away and not going anywhere near them places. Now, you may do you may do patrols without the dog in a certain area. There is some little bits of sort of broken glass around here, like quite small bits. I think someone's tried to either sweep them to the side and that. So again, just have to keep my eye out and make sure that the dog isn't walking on any broken glass or little shards of glass, etc. But yeah, that's kind of the site, to be honest. It's just one of them sites where it's just dirty. There's not there's no grass. There's a little bit of pavement bit over here that where I sit, I try and sit in the cleanest part. Because obviously, as well, you don't want to be sitting next to like a big pile of rubbish and all the fumes and all the rats and all that coming out of there. So I sit in the nicest part I can. Luckily enough, that is near the entrance as well, so it's the best place to sit anyway. But yeah, there's just some certain things around here that you want to make sure you keep the dogs away from, because A, you don't want them going through it, B, you definitely don't want them to be drinking that, because if a dog is thirsty, they may just drink out of it anyway, and then all of a sudden you're rushing the dog to the vets because that's going to be full of rats urine, that's going to be full of just absolute crap. So yeah. And also, it is important to have a look around to see if there's anything that can damage the dogs, but also vehicles. So I've got this thing that sticks up a good 6 inches in the air, iron rod. Now that could quite easily get stuck in the van and end up damaging the van. So a lot of the time when you're kind of walking around, not only do you want to look for stuff that could harm the dog or whatever, but also the van. Like if I'm not concentrating or whatever, if I park my van in a place where I may have to drive over that, then there's a good chance that I could end up damaging my vehicle. So sometimes when you're coming out or when you get to a new site, etc., it's not just about looking for stuff that could harm the dog or harm yourself, but also your vehicle as well, because what you don't want to do is go to drive out of your shift and then end up causing 300 quid's worth of damage to your vehicle, because that's it, that's two free shifts of money just gone straight out the window. Run! Up! Keep up! There's a good lad. Wait. Off. Good lad, good lad. Round! Good boy. Oh. Ollie. Up. Ollie. Up here, come in. Up. Come on in. Ollie. Up. Ollie. Come on in. Up you get. Come on in. Okay. So, Ollie. Up. Oh, good try. What if I get up there? Ollie, come in. Oh, good boy. Well done. Yes. That's all you needed. You needed me to get up here. Oh. Right, Ollie. Up. Yeah, good boy. Well done. Coming in. Up. Good lad. Okay, well, I think it's coming up to about 2 o'clock. So we are, just under 3/4 of the way through the shift now. And yeah, it's been a quiet shift. Ever since I started this site at the start of the week, it's been really quiet, to be honest. I don't think there's nothing here that's really worth breaking into still, which is handy, because I think that's always the main threat, is that someone's trying to break into to try and steal something. But unless you're going to go through garbage, it's there's nothing here to really steal. So it's more of a case of just making sure that no one's trespassing, possibly more for their own safety. As you saw, I showed you a little bit of sort of the rubbish. Now, if someone did break in order to do that, there's a good chance that they may injure themselves. So it's probably more for people's own safety if they do get in, that obviously they don't go go through the rubbish, etc. But obviously they just want to keep people out of here as well. So yeah, like I say, I'm just coming up to maybe about 3/4 of the way through the shift. It's going to be a quiet site. Do I want to leave this site? I feel like it's a reasonably safe site. It's a reasonably easy job. But on the other side of that, it's not great for the dogs really, because there's not lots to patrol. You can get out, obviously, like I said earlier, I want to stay away from areas for the dog's own safety as well. So there's only like a small area in which we can sort of do stuff, etc. as well. So like I say, I think I often think that if you're on a nice, safe job, or that's not high risk, that's pretty low risk, to say that you want to move to go somewhere else always sounds like a good idea until you get put onto a site that is high risk and you end up having lots of problems on it, and then you wish that you was back on the low risk site. So I'm not saying that I would want to move from this site. I would say, look, it's just not ideal for sort of the dog, etc. and that, but it's a safe, I feel like it's quite a safe little job. So yeah, just gone through, coming up to 3/4. I've had my sandwich, had some of my snacks and that, etc. Feeling in decent spirits. I'm enjoying being back on the 12-hour shift, having that time to do some stuff with the dogs maybe, especially if I'm bringing both. Like I say, I left earlier and I got ready quicker than I normally would, in order to be able to give them a run. And after this, I'll be able to take the dogs back to my mum and dad's to give them a run afterwards before we go home. So being back on the 12-hour shifts obviously gives you a chance to do that. On the 16-hour shifts, where you're only off work for 8 hours and you need to sleep in that time, it's not as if you can take the dogs for a 45-minute hour run before and after work, etc. Where if you're on 12-hour shifts, I can take the dogs for a 45-minute run before we go home. And if I was taking both dogs later on, which I don't think I will, but if I was bringing both dogs later on, I can take them for a 45-minute hour run before we come to site. Because like I say, there's not really much chance of them doing lots of patrolling, lots of walking. There's not chance for them to really stretch their legs, etc. And have a run around. So I think being able to do it too before and after work is obviously a bit of a benefit. So, but yeah, I'll crack on, carry on doing this sort of stuff, and I'll catch up with you guys in a little while. And we are done. And what a nice morning. Little bit of mist in the air. What a nice morning. But the weather is starting to turn. It was the first night I've worn my jacket for a good few months, to be fair, and I put some extra layers on yesterday before the shift, because I looked at the weather and saw that like the highs, or the minimum of like 12 of an evening, but it was definitely down into single digits last night. Not warm enough to get the electric blanket out, but definitely cold enough to make me put my jacket on and make sure I had some base layers on as well. But yeah, what a nice morning that is. So yeah, we're done for the shift now, and like I say, it's nice with this site that I can, if I'm taking both dogs with me, I can kind of sandwich them running around, having a run around the field. I don't know if you can see them in the background. Them being able to have a run around in the field before and after. So yeah, this site, I'll say it's not the greatest. There's some hazards that I have to kind of just be wary of for the dog's safety, my safety, and as you saw with the iron rod, the van safety as well. I don't want to be adding a 300 quid van bill because I've driven into an iron rod that's sticking out the floor. But yeah, it's going to be okay. Like I say, I think it's a pretty safe site. There's not going to be loads of trouble on there. Like I said, there's nothing that's on there that's worth nicking, etc. And so yeah, but like I say, I think one of the main things for this video is just to make sure that you look around, like we always say about your first patrol, do it without the dog, so that you can look at areas and make sure that you notify down any areas that could be hazardous, so you know where to keep the dogs away from, keep yourself away from as well, and then obviously the van. So coming to a site, making sure you pick up on what the hazards sort of thing and all that sort of stuff is. And yeah, like I say, weather's starting to turn now. Of a night, it's starting to get down to being a little chilly without being cold. But yeah, other than that, Cooper's chasing Ollie now. No, he's not. Run past him. But yeah, guys, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe down below for loads more videos. And as for now, I'll see you again next week. Cheers for watching. See you later. Bye. Hello, the boys. Good lads. Hello, Owls. Come on, son.